Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good day to all of you, my dear students. I welcome you to lecture number 22 of report writing skills. If I talk about the points which we have discussed in the previous lecture, of course, our focus was the presentation skills. And to discuss what these are, of course, we looked into the concept of presentation itself, its basic, and then how do you proceed on with it. You basically looked into the three-stage process through which a presentation is, of course, created. Then you do the preparation, and then you move towards the final step of presenting the content which you have prepared. So that is known basically as the three-stage process. And then, of course, we can call them as the presentation etiquettes, the do's and don'ts. We looked into them in detail as well. If I talk about the component which we are going to discuss in our today's lecture, you're going to have some flashbacks of the points which we have discussed in our lecture number 21. But today you're going to get basically a detailed picture of how you're going to go through this process of preparing a presentation and then doing the presentation itself before the audience. So the first thing basically, as the face, the expression and the picture itself is speaking, you will realize gradually how picture reflects everything. You don't have to explain it itself. It is quite self-explanatory. There are two things whenever you are assigned a topic of presenting something. There are two things that you experience as a human being. The first is, of course, the anxiety, and the second thing is, of course, fear. Very common things, very natural things, and basically I would recommend and suggest that accept this thing to be part of your personality, because it's natural to be there within an individual. But the next thing, of course, after accepting is to deal with it, to tackle it, to resolve the issue that you are facing. So, of course, why do you feel the anxiety? Or if I start from the basic concept of anxiety itself, what it is. So the basic point to know is that anxiety is this worry about the future event, which means it is something that you experience once you know you have to present something in the upcoming days, something which is scheduled and you have to present. So this worry which is going to take over your whole personality, this is basically known as anxiety, that we all experience quite often due to different circumstances. Fear of the unknown, or you can call it as loss of control. Sometimes when you say, I don't know what to do with it, I can't even express myself, I don't know how to express what I'm feeling right now, I'm short of words. So this sort of feeling which is developed as a result of this sudden task which is assigned to you, in which you have to face the audience, a huge audience which would be expecting a lot from you, is anxiety. Fight or flight mode, or you can call it as this overexcitement which takes over you. Of course, it's the result of the hormones which are there within a human body. In case of this fight or flight mode that I even studied, it's a hormone known as adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone which is basically used, or which is basically released within a human body when an individual has to fight or flight. Basically the point here is when you require a sudden energy. Sometimes you would have seen there are certain reflexes which are so quick. For example, your hand going near the flame and all of a sudden you just take it back. Or sometimes you experience these minor electricity static shocks, as a result of which you certainly take your hand back. This sudden action, a quick action known also as reflexes, is the result of these hormones which are released within your body. One of this, of course, is the adrenaline, used for sudden action. So in case of birds is for flight, and in case of animals is for fight. But of course we all are living organisms, so in our case also these hormones exist, and it's the result of this release that you get excited. You feel this current within you and you are unable to control yourself. Another result of anxiety is, or I can call it as the cause of anxiety, is that you do not have a backup plan. You don't know how to deal with things which are going to come at your way. So certainly in case of no backup plan, you're going to suffer from anxiety when you don't know how to deal with things which are there surrounding you from every side. And then of course you are provided with a subject to deal with, and you do not have a passion, you don't have the interest or enthusiasm to deal with it or to go with it, then certainly the result would be that if you are not interested into a subject matter, you're going to face anxiety. In the long run, if you want to understand this concept, it is something like you want to go in one field whereas you are made to go in another. You don't have the interest, the passion for going into that subject or to understand it. As a result of it, what will be the thing? You will be suffering once again from anxiety because you don't know what's coming ahead, you don't know how to deal with it, so you'll be suffering from anxiety. Now, taking this future event, bringing it into the present, and then the worry which surrounds you, it takes over you. Again, once I would say that feelings are almost the same. The difference is of the time. If it's regarding the future event, it's anxiety. And if it is like the fear or the worry about the present event, then you basically generalize it, categorize it as fear, which takes over you, as the picture says it. Now the audience is there in front of you, and now you're getting worried, sweating. What do you feel basically? If we start from looking into the present definition of this concept, worry about the current event, the present event of it. Now you have become a part. Now you're nervous, and now like you have this fear even more than your death. Of course we worry about death, natural thing, but right now this presentation has taken over you, and now you are just simply surrounded by these people and becoming more and more fearful. What are the symptoms? You see, you would be thinking that I am like a doctor and telling you all the symptoms that you're going to witness and experience. Well, you can take me in that case, because certainly I'm going to provide you with some medicines and medication as well. So in case of the facts, these are the symptoms. Shaky hands, blushing cheeks, sometimes you see them, sometimes not. A loss of memory. When you are nervous, suddenly you don't know what was the point which was there in mind. You experience this while preparing for your examination. At the end of the day, once your presentation is complete or your preparation is complete, and the next you're going to have the examination, say, I don't even remember even a single thing. I don't think I remember anything which I have studied so far. Why? Because once again you have this anxiety, you have this fear of the unknown, what's coming ahead. So you feel like you don't have any memory, but at the end of the day, once you see the question paper, you realize, oh yes, points are coming back in my mind. Yes, I know these were the answers to these questions. So this is something natural, and you have to deal with this anxiety and fear. Sometimes nausea, sometimes knocking knees, but it's all happening because we, after all, are human beings, and we have to accept it. But this is not the end of the story. Symptoms is not just one thing, but it should lead you towards some medication. Now you should ask the doctor how to deal with this problem. So what you need is basically this planning. You require this planning, and this planning of your presentation is going to solve most of your problem. And moving ahead, we're going to see, even still this thing doesn't work, what else can you add up into your planning which can help you to become a good presenter. So first thing is that you have to set a purpose for yourself, that what is the purpose? Why am I doing this? Why am I basically presenting? First, clarifying yourself why you are doing this. Once you have set the purpose, you have to move ahead to the analysis of your audience. Now once again, you have to keep in mind those categories which we have studied while talking about the other forms of writing: high-tech, low-tech, lay. These, and in addition to this, they are kind of audience that we had in case of writing a report. So all these categories should be there within your mind, and then moving onwards to looking to demographics, meaning their number, their age, their level, everything. Then their knowledge, then their motivation level, to how much extent are they motivated and enthusiastic to go to that topic and listen to you, what you have to offer, how much they are motivated. If you have done sort of publicity and advertisement, of course they will be more encouraged and motivated to listen to you. But if all of a sudden asked to come here and sit and watch a presentation and listen to a presentation, then the motivation level would be a bit different. So you have to first consider the analysis of the audience as well. Then you have to keep in mind and decide and understand the spacing. How many seats would be there, because this number of seats is going to determine how many people would be there in front of you. Then what is the arrangement? Sometimes it's just straight, sometimes you have a semicircle, sometimes you have steps in front of you, and that is in the general way in which you have your classes as well, in most of the situation. Or sometime if you sit in an auditorium, you would have experienced this stepwise semicircular arrangement in which everyone can see. None of the people are simply getting blocked and no one is blocking their way. So these are the different arrangements that you have to consider in case of spacing, and within the space your AV aids are also included. So you have to first ensure what kind of AV aids are possibly available for me, what is their probability, and am I able to use them or not. So AV aids are important. We're going to look into them as well. In case of this planning, the next point is that you need to make yourself sure what is the fixed date and what is that specific time in which my presentation is going to begin, how much time is allocated to me, so that you may finish it within time or on time. Point here is that you have to confirm these things, date and time. Moving ahead, you have to manage some things as well. Finalizing things, confirming things, how is this presentation going to begin, what kind of AV aids are being used, how am I going to conclude, what kind of things I'm going to show. So you're going to become part of the management as well. You have to ensure that each and everything is ready and well prepared, and only then you would be able to do the right kind of presentation. Then evidence are also very much important. Do all this fact finding that you want to present in front of your audience, so that you may not be doubtful about any point that you are making within your presentation. You should have all the facts for everything. If you want to show some evidence, if you want to show some statistics and facts, have them at the very beginning, which is going to be very helpful in case of your presentation, especially in front of the audience. Then outline. I would make a tick over here because outline is very much important. Just the way you have an outline in the very beginning of a book, in case of a dissertation, in case of any kind of document, you have an outline. Outline is helpful for you. Outline is also helpful for your readers. So make your viewers understand how you're going to proceed with the presentation, the beginning, the middle, the ending. One thing. Moving ahead, outline should be there for you as well. A special outline that you have for yourself, for your own clarification. What would it include? Basically the main points that you want to cover. Moving ahead, the keyword reminders, so that you may not get distracted or may not forget the basic point that you want to make. You should have them within your mind, and you have to clarify and explain each and every point that you have to make. But first thing is, have it in front of you so that you may not miss it. Therefore, keyword reminders should be there. And if you have the outline, you're going to have this conversational flow as well. You will have this flow. You will have a sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then moving towards the conclusion, so that you may not miss anything. And then, of course, you have the outline. It will provide you with the flexibility as well. You will go smoothly through your presentation without getting confused at some point, that whether should I discuss it or not, if you do not have the sequence. But if you have the sequence, if you have the outline, nothing will give you any kind of problem, and you'll go smoothly throughout the presentation. Selecting the effective visual aid. If I talk about visual aid itself, if you look at this point, visual, something related to the vision and aid. So anything, any component could be a document, as we are going to see the example as well. Anything which is helping your vision, your sight, in the comprehension of the presentation, of course, in this case, becomes a visual aid. Sometimes people confuse this aid with acquired immune deficiency syndrome, which is totally a different thing. Do not try to bring it over here. AIDS is a different thing, and this visual aid is a totally separate concept. So mind it and keep it in your mind. If we talk about selecting the effective visual aid, you have to decide it as well in the very beginning to make your presentation effective. Effective visual aid is going to make then effective presentation. What will it do basically? It will enhance your own understanding as well as the understanding of your audience. Because once you are making it, it will be enhancing your own understanding. Adding variety. Of course, if you are just talking continuously, it can result into a bit of monotony. But if you bring a change, just the way sometime I am talking, sometime I am dragging you through the slides, some of the points, there is a change. So in a similar way, you get a big chance of adding variety into your presentation if you have these visual aids just the way I'm using one. Support claims. If you are making points and if you want to support them, of course, this visual aid provides you with a big space of adding all the claims which you are making by adding pictures, diagrams, clip arts. There are multiple options which are available in your visual aid, and this is something which you do by supporting your claims. Lasting impact. Of course, if I talk about what I'm saying right now and what I'm showing to you right now, you tend to prefer and are able to remember the kind of images, the art, the picture, the videos far more better than the speech or the text itself. But when these two things combine together within a single thing, it is more helpful, easy to digest and understand, which is why this is the mode in which you are being taught right now. You are getting this verbal communication, and you are also getting some visual aid through PowerPoint presentation. So both things together working to help you out in the comprehension. So that's what is going to have this lasting impact at the end of presentation. In case of your visual aid, these are the things which should be done. It should supplement your presentation, it should provide an outline, because things are provided in the form of pictures. So what you are saying, this becomes like an outline. All things are there in the form of pictures and brief outline. Brief points are there of what you are saying. So it becomes like an outline. Serve the audience needs, and of course not speakers, because speakers are well aware of what they have to say. They have already done all the preparation. But the basic point here is that they serve the audience, and this should be the target when you are using a visual aid. And then you have to ensure that your visual aid is not that complex that the audience is unable to even understand what you are trying to convey through that visual aid. So it should be simple and it should be very much clear, so that once they go through it, they realize this is the point that he was talking about at this time, and this is the point he was mentioning over here. So it should be very simple, logical, and clear. When using your visual aid, what should be the purpose? So in case of using your visual aid, these are used basically to support your ideas and improve audience comprehension of your presentation. So once again, supporting your claim and helping audience to understand the points. Adding variety to your presentation by giving audience a break from listening and letting to see something. I'm going to show you this thing as well, that how you're going to how you can switch the attention from yourself to the presentation, and once again from the presentation to yourself if you want them once again to look into the presentation. So you can do this switching as well, as I'm going to show you by a simple key which is coming ahead. To help illustrate complex ideas or concepts and help in reinforcing your ideas. So it's like once again a review of the points that these are the things which should be the purpose and should be done in this case. To support your spoken delivery in the form of, so these are the things which can be done, clips, pictures, graphics and animation. You can do anything and it will become like a visual aid. So verbal itself will stand on one side, but you are showing all the pictures just the way in addition to the lecture you see at the end the video animation in which all the points are summarized for you in the form of animation, in the form of the voiceover that you hear. The summary of all the points are coming along with the animation. So this is what an animation can do, just the way you have seen it in a presentation. Look into all the points, and that is going to have a big impact if you include it within your presentation. Images and diagrams can take less time for explaining a concept as compared with words. Think of the first picture which was there to reflect anxiety. Once you looked at it, you realize person is getting crazy, person is getting worried, very much anxious, suffering from anxiety and fear. So now I have just taken, I guess, few seconds, and you look at it in a single second. You can realize by looking at the pictures. This is the difference of a picture compared to words. Visual stimuli combined with your oral delivery also make the presentation more memorable. This is the point which I have made, that if you combine these two things together, you will get a formula or a product which will be more effective compared to those two things standing separately. So this is what you can get. If we talk about some of the examples from the figures, these are also very much visible, but if I show individually, presentation tool includes MS PowerPoint, which is quite commonly used right now, being used for your lecture as well. These are PowerPoint slides that you can see right now. That is how you can use them as a visual aid in addition to my lecture. Overhead projectors, the kind of projector that you have behind you, they are over your head and displaying everything in front of you. That's how they're known as overhead projectors. You have graphs, you have charts, you have seen them within your classes as well. All this displayed to explain some points. You can display pictures, films, flip charts, the ones that you flip to show different information, sketches, of course you can have them in front of your audience, handouts that you display to provide things just the way you're getting all the handouts, posters, if you have to explain something, rather than using the PowerPoint, then you provide a poster for your presentation and explain each and every point. Posters are generally displayed, if you have seen them in different conferences and seminar, they are there. Some individual who has worked on something is standing beside that poster, and people just come around there, ask for what have you done here, what you have here for us to understand, and then you explain each and every point which is there within the poster. So that is how that once again becomes a visual aid. Role plays, also another visual aid, because through vision you are trying to explain the meaning in addition to the presentation. So before the presentation, of course, a role play can be performed, and once that role play has been completed, then the presenter can come and explain what has been done within a role play. So each and everything becomes a visual aid. But right now, as you are also witnessing, PowerPoint presentation is being used for your lecture, and it's also used for most of the occasion, for most of the presentation. That's why it's very much essential for you to understand how to use a PowerPoint presentation. But to talk about it at the very beginning, just an overview for those who want to understand about PowerPoint, what it is. One of the basic component of that, Microsoft Office, because there are Word, Excel, and there are multiple more, but one of these is the PowerPoint, which is used for making slides and the presentation. There are predefined presentation formats which are there part of it. Of course, you have to pick one of them, and then you have to go through applying that format. Of course, predefined format is there, you select it and then you add the content for your own presentation. There are a variety of layouts and views. Of course, if you look into it, there will be multiple options, many themes, different forms and styles of slides. So you pick any one of these layouts and views, select one which suits your needs, and then start adding the content for your own understanding and for your own presentation. The ability to edit and modify is also very much there, because this gives you basically the kind of access of adding data into the slides. Then you create text, you can add text, you can add charts and graphics into it, you can incorporate objects like clip art, you can simply upload images on these slides, you can upload audio and video within these slides as well. there are multiple things which you can do, which is why it's used like throughout, I would say, in any forum. I would say that this PowerPoint is used quite a lot because of its versatility and its usage. It's used everywhere, despite the fact that there are multiple other softwares, there are multiple other presentation tools which are also available. I have just displayed their pictures in the previous slide, but still this one is used quite often. Wherever you're going to see someone using this PowerPoint presentation for their own and your visual aid. So that's why its usage is very much essential. You should know how to use it, and we're going to talk about it. It's also used for creating special effects and transition. That is also a tool which is used for these transition from one point to the other, just to add special effects into your presentation. We have this special tutorial on how to make a PowerPoint presentation for you, in which you will be getting all the points like a tutorial. It will be a demo of selecting one, opening one, adding points and data. So everything will be displayed and done one by one, step by step in front of you. If you watch the tutorial, of course, which will help you to follow up, but to have an overview, is to have like a quick overview of how you basically go through it. We're going to discuss few points in this lecture as well. In case of using like once you have decided that you will be going for PowerPoint to make your presentation and to make this PowerPoint as a visual aid, this is your final decision. What points to notice? Like that's why it's written here. These some of the tips and tricks which should be there within your mind to make it like an efficient and a very effective tool. Keep in mind that you have to keep your content to minimum number of slides. Keep it less, just the way you find. Of course, in my case, I am delivering a lecture of almost an hour. Sometimes it exceeds an hour. That's why my number is more. But in general, if you are allocated a standard time of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even 20 minutes, then you have to reduce your number of slides. Keeping the content short, because if it is short, you'll be the one focused. Otherwise, just people will be looking at the slides and they will be paying less attention to the person who is standing in front of them. Therefore, better to keep the content less on slides in the form of bullets and focusing more on their explanation by yourself. While using, of course, slides, your font size and style should be the one which was discussed and recommended in case of lecture number 21. So I talked about, instead of using Times New Roman, you have Arial, basically sans serif. Those fonts are a bit visible, flexible, easy to view, which is why these were recommended to be used within your PowerPoint presentation. Use bullet points and short sentences. This was my point, because this use of bullet points, if you have bullets, they'll be easy to focus by the audience and they'll look at you once they have read the bullet. Now the explanation will be coming from that person who is in front of them. So just the way you see the points are presented to you in the form of bullets, these are the bullets which are there in front of you. In the form of arrows, these are also the bullets. Point here is that if the points are coming in the form of bullets, so it's easy to provide the explanation just the way I do it for you. So you try to adapt the same strategy for yourself. Use of art to convey your message, just the way some art is also there on the right hand side. You can add relevant art which suits the needs and you can make it part of your presentation slides as well. Labeling chart and graphs appropriately in case of like if you have to present some sort of report. Of course, the written document itself would be separate, but if you have to talk about it in a presentation and if you want to incorporate some graph, label the chart and the graphs appropriately so that the readers can follow it on easily. Choose an appealing, consistent template theme, keeping focus on the content. So don't make it too haphazard, too complex, filled up with colors. Just keep a plain, try to make it a plain theme in which the focus should remain on the content which you have to offer, which you have written. Just the way you look at the screen, we have like a plain theme in which there is just a single bar at the top of multiple colors to make it attractive. The rest of it is all white, and then we have some bullet points in which the arrow comes in blue color, highlighting that this is the point to focus on, and then you have a bullet point, and then you look into it. If you have multiple colors coming in your slides, and the content would be least visible. So that's how you can learn from things, just have an idea from the lecture as well. There should be high contrast between the background color and the text color, a point which was discussed in our previous lecture number 21, of course. Just the point here is there were two out of those 4 options which were provided to you. I told you that 2 are better. The one in which there was like a dark background and all of a sudden there was a white text, and I told you it is only applied in case the whole scenario, the whole room is dark as well. Otherwise, in journal, the most recommended is that you should have a white background and a dark text over it. That will be more visible, because that is how we have been writing, that is how we have been viewing different documents. It is always a white paper with dark text over it. So your presentation will be accepted and readable, watchable in the similar way if it is having the same background color and text color. Now talking about how do you prepare a PowerPoint presentation. Of course, once you select one, you will get a slide in which the headings would be title and subtitle. So you have to give a title. In our case, you always see it's written report writing skills, and then subtitle is lecture number this. So that is how you give in the very beginning title and subtitle, and then you add slide into it. You add another slide, you add a new slide, and you are able to add new points into each and every slide. Once again, following the convention that keeping the points in bullets, not many bullets, keeping the bullets short, keeping the sentences short. You can also, of course, add charts, graphs, and diagrams into it, which is going to be very much helpful in the overall presentation of your slides, and which would help you in the long run in your own presentation, if you can, of course, give reference to what kind of points are coming within your presentation. Then, of course, once you have added charts, graphs, and diagrams, all the relevant things are there. You simply save the presentation for the actual presentation, which will be there in front of the audience. So this is like a general step-by-step procedure which you do. If I just talk about an example here, whenever you select the PowerPoint in your system, you say open PowerPoint, you double click on it. So this is the interface where you have to select the new, this is the way, this new over here, you can see it just written under info, and then you get multiple options. Now these are all the different themes which you get, and you can pick any one of these themes. And the general convention, once again, just as I have recommended, is choosing this blank presentation, because this one is going to give you like a white background over which you can write the black text, or I would say the dark text in journal. So once you have selected it, then you're going to get such components. You simply add title and then subtitle, and then you simply click on the new slide where new slides would be appearing, and once you have added all the content, then you simply click on save button, and save as would simply ask you where do you want to save your presentation, and that is how you can save your PowerPoint presentation once it's complete. This is just like a quick overview. The tutorial is going to make things even more easier for you to understand. But if we move ahead, points to remember in case of your presentation. Of course, now you want to present things, so what points should be there within your mind to have a good impression and to be a good presenter? The qualities of a good presentation, of course. You have to show up early and verify that your equipment works properly. It's very important to ensure that things are okay, nothing goes wrong, because that is, at the time of the presentation, if these things are happening, it's going to have a very negative impact. A negative bad impression, first bad impression in front of your audience. So you don't want that thing to happen. Therefore, ensure that you show up early and verify whether the things are working or not by asking the technical team. Don't assume that your presentation will work fine on another computer. Once again, a related point. Ensure you have prepared everything, everything is final, but you need to check where you have to present that whether it's working in that PC or due to some sort of virus the files got corrupted, which is why it's not opening, or maybe Microsoft Office is missing. So ensure that Microsoft Office, especially PowerPoint, is installed in that system so that nothing may go wrong. Another thing, if your PC has a screensaver on, turn your screensaver off. Otherwise, all of a sudden within the slides, the kind of screensaver that you have activated will be displayed after a few minutes based on the time set. So it could be a space travel or some sort of name which is appearing, your own name or the company's name you are basically presenting. To ensure that, turn the screensaver off. Check all the colors, because sometimes the screen has some sort of technical problem because of which the colors which you have made within your presentation may not be visible in the screen on which you have to present. So ensure that the projection screen is okay, there is nothing wrong with it. Ask your audience to hold question until the end, which is going to help you to have this smooth flow of the presentation. So if you want things to go smoothly, you can request them, if you consider it to be the best option, that you can keep your questions saved, note them down, jot them down, keep them saved, and when I take you towards the end of the presentation, you may ask all the questions that you have in mind. Feel free, and you are welcome to raise all the queries. And now I'm going to answer each and every one of them. So that will help you to have a smooth flow of all the points. Otherwise, if you are like stopped and paused after every minute or two, that is going to affect your flow of communication. So it's better to just tell them at the very beginning. You can keep these questions at the end. Moving ahead, do not read the presentation. This is something that I always observe. I don't know why, but even at the senior level, I have observed many people, first of all, I was watching a YouTube video. You can just search it as well. It's a video on Pakistan-China Economic Corridor, CPEC. And there was a big lecture, I guess, of 1 hour. There are multiple presentations, but again, the point was, although the points itself were very much relevant, they needed some detail, but rather than explaining anything, just reading and reading and reading. So I didn't like the idea. If you are a presenter, rather than keeping all the focus on those points, in case of a presentation, it is expected from you to be the person in the limelight, person in the forefront. So audience should be looking at you rather than the presentation itself. So I didn't like the idea, and it is generally recommended that you should have your points short so that you may be the one presenting rather than the presentation presenting itself. Stay on time. Of course, that will reflect your punctuality, and punctuality reflecting your personality. Monitor your audience behavior. This is also very much important. You need to, at the very beginning, once you go there, the good thing is, of course, you try to chat and interact with a few people who would be there in front of you, because that will make you more comfortable before starting the actual presentation. People are friendly. Of course, they'll always be friendly. This is the general convention here, that people want you to succeed. They're like not your enemies, not against you. You are presenting and they want to learn something from you. That's why they want you to succeed and complete in each and everything that you have in your mind, and explain and transfer it to them. And therefore, it's necessary that you monitor, keep on monitoring the audience behavior as well. If at times they feel like they reflect this actions which is reflecting some sort of boredom to be coming from their side, of course you can move ahead, keep it short, move ahead. Otherwise, if they are taking the interest, that means that some point is appealing and important, so you can explain it, because that is something appealing to them, and you have to time it based on the interest taken by the audience. So keep monitoring your audience behavior. Avoid moving the pointer unconsciously. Although I have a pointer here as well, let's see whether it's visible to you or not, but the point here is your pointer of the laser, if you are pointing things through laser, or if you have a stick through which you are pointing things. So don't move it towards the screen just unconsciously. Whenever you have to raise a point, do it deliberately and then point at something that you really want your audience to see and view. Otherwise, turn off your laser, keep your stick down, and just talk with the audience. They want to see what kind of gestures you want to make and what you have to offer verbally. In case of using a visual aid, you have to be careful not to stand in front and obscure the view of your audience. That is also very much necessary. Sometimes it happens, quite often I have seen in some talks, that a big shadow of yourself, if your whole body is prepared, is simply developed over that presentation which is being presented. Why does it happen? There is a projector before you, and that projector, you basically come in its way, and the screen in which the PPT or the presentation is being displayed. Therefore, do such an arrangement in which you stay at a side. Your podium or your lectern or the rostrum on which you are standing should be there at a side, and the presentation, the board basically in which the PPT is being displayed through the projector, there should be nothing in between. The rays should be directly falling towards the screen. Therefore, nothing should be blocked. Then avoid reading from the large projector screen. This is also a very important point. It's generally recommended here that you should read just the way I am reading, because the points, although in your case they are being made visible to you just beside me or around me, you see all the points which are coming one by one, but in my case you can see this black screen here in front of me. I have my points over here, and this is even recommended in case of your presentation which is there in front of the audience. So you should, if you have to see the points should be there in front of you, rather than you having a projector and through that projector points being displayed behind you and then you looking back again and again. This is something not recommended and not to be followed, especially for a good presentation. Have your points here so that you may not turn away from your audience. The point here is you have to face the audience to interact with them. Therefore, your face should be straight. And some other tips which you can do coming ahead. Try making brief notes on index cards. Of course, that is going to help you as well. If you have the points, you will have all the things to discuss with them. You need to interact with the information on your visual aids as well by pointing to specific points or parts of the diagram. Once again, not unconsciously using the laser pointers. Of course, avoid using the laser. Good thing is that you use yourself naturally rather than using these other things. Better to focus on the points which are specifically important and should be addressed, only then point your fingers. Otherwise, it's better to just talk. Contingency plan, very important. Contingency basically means some future expected event, and planning means the planning which you do for something which is expected. A probability is there for such a thing to happen. In case of contingency plan for a presentation, a probability of something going wrong. So therefore, what plans are needed to deal with those problems which can possibly occur? So if we look into them, always a risk of some technical problem due to which your data which you have provided to them may get lost or may get corrupted files. Therefore, need to keep some data saved with you in a USB, flash drive, pen drive, or an email. Email is like the safest mode in which even your USB can have the viruses, but in case of your email, the data will remain safe. In place of displaying a website or web page, in case the place where you're presenting, they may not the internet service properly. So in that case, of course, have some screenshots saved with you of that web page that you want to display. Ensure the availability of all the software and hardware, speakers, internet, multimedia, everything you have to ensure. Presentation created on Apple machine may or may not be compatible with the others, so you need to check this compatibility as well, whether things are compatible or not. Tips. These are also very much important, which will help you. Plan your presentation before creating the visual aid. Once again, like highlighting the main point that in order to avoid that anxiety, in order to avoid that fear, have the planning, and that planning comes first, then your visual aid. Use visual aid sparingly, meaning not always. all the focus shouldn't be there on the visual aid, rather focus should remain on yourself. Make them visible to the entire audience, of course, by not coming in the way, talking to the audience, not to the aid. So not looking on the screen, rather looking at the audience and having some points here in front of you. Minimum use of laser pointers, just the way I've mentioned. Explaining the content of the aid when you first show it. This is also important. Don't just display thing all of a sudden. Either they should be related to the point which you have already discussed, and if you have presented something new, first explain it and then move ahead. When you finish with the aid, I have just clicked it twice, which is why 2 points are here, but still I'm going to discuss first one. When you finish with the aid, remove it or cover it or turn it off with key B. This is also very important, and now I want to show it. Let's hope it works here. If you have displayed something, you are talking about it. It's a map, it's a picture, you're discussing it in detail. Now all of a sudden you want their focus to be shifted towards you. So what you can do is you can press on your keyboard this key of B. Capital B is written over here. So you click over it, the whole screen or the projector screen will go black. Now you are raising all the points, you're discussing it, explaining it, and once if you want them to see the screen again, click on any key. I'm clicking on escape, it'll bring me back to the screen again. So remember the key B. B, I can say that B for black or blank, but point here is you click on this key of B, that is going to make the whole screen black. So the audience will all of a sudden face you. They'll look towards you. So this is the thing which you can do by in order to switch their concentration and their focus. Limit the amount of material on any aid, on any one aid. So keeping the things short. Be prepared to give your presentation even without your visual aid. How you can do it? By taking hard copies of your slides. So anything can happen. Be prepared for anything. This is important. Verbal communication strategies, because what you can do after all this which you have done, the planning and then creating the presentation, how still you have to be more effective, how to be more strategic in your verbal communication, how you can be a good presenter. Of course, practice is important. It will be recommended by everyone, but in addition to this, you have to read more. Of course, it will improve your vocabulary, it will improve your knowledge. Think after reading more, think of using less words. How you can say things basically concisely. Of course, that point is coming ahead, in which all the C's will become important. Prepare for the expected and unexpected, because you can have some people in the audience which are the troublemakers. You always have the troublemakers who are just coming up with irrelevant questions. So prepare yourself mentally that you have to face these people as well, and you need to have some answers to give them. Listen effectively and show interest to build rapport by, of course, note taking. So this is always something which you can do. If someone is raising a question and you want to understand it even more, have like a small sticky note. A pen should be there with you, so you can always note down the points being made by the audience. That is how they will think the person is really taking interest into what we have to offer. Therefore, you will be building a rapport. Be honest. If you are creating stories on your own, you will be in more trouble, because one lie will lead you to another lie, will lead you to another lie. So there will be like a chain reaction, and in order to stop this chain reaction, the good thing is to be honest right from the beginning. Get to the point. It'll keep your presentation short, brief, and interesting for the audience. Apply 7 C's of communication, because these working together are going to be very much helpful for you right from the beginning till the end. Yani keeping things concise, clear, concrete, courtesy. Right now I can't just simply think of all the C's, but the point is apply all the 7 C's of communication, because you have studied them already. You attitude, very much important. Building this relationship means that do not just keep focus on yourself, I think, I believe. Rather, try to build a relationship by involving the audience, by telling them that you have to do this as well. You may feel this, you may encounter such situations. So this use of you means you are involving them within this meaning making process and the interaction. Therefore, your attitude is also very important part of developing your verbal communication strategies. In addition, keeping your language gender neutral. We have talked about some expressions such as manpower, chairman, postman. So therefore, you have to reduce such usage of gender biased expression by making them gender neutral. You can have human resource rather than manpower, chairperson instead of chairman, and that is going to reflect the impact that you maintain equality among all genders, and everyone will be interested to hear from you even more. Try to keep your focus on each slide of about 2 to 3 minutes, not more than that, because audience would also like to see what you have to offer next. So it's like an ideal strategy. Of course, you can have a bit more time, a bit less time, it can vary, but in general 2 to 3 minutes are almost okay for a single slide, because you have to discuss many more. Sit in others' presentation by becoming aware of the space and audience. This is also a very good strategy if you can do it, if you have the space, if you have the time, if you know. This is something which I did as well. I basically participated in ICLAP, International Conference in the Linguistic Association of Pakistan. It was held in Kinnaird College. Over there, of course, we had the space of sitting in others' presentation as well. Gradually I realized where I have to stand, how I have to begin, how I have to end, and then how I have to move by collecting my certificate of participation. So sitting in others' presentation gives you an idea how you can or how you have to present yourself. So this is also a good strategy. If you do it, it will help you in the long run. Now, in case of starting your talk, you need to keep some points in mind. During the introduction, of course, you need to achieve the following aims: gaining attention, attracting interest, developing this desire, and based on this, stimulating an action, which is like, of course, the target that you want to achieve. So for that, of course, you need a bit practice. That practice can be for starting from learning some expressions which are generally used, conventionally used to greet your audience, as good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my presentation. It's very nice to see you all here today. Can we get started? Let me say just a few words about my background. So you can use them in a sequence just a way, but that will look like cramming. Of course, you can just get an idea from these expressions. That will be very much helpful for you as well. Making an effective opening. Like, there are several ways you can attract the audience. We have talked about some attention getters there in lecture number 21. You can look into some expressions here to do such things, those strategies, by giving them a problem to think about in your very effective opening. Suppose you are there, and then why is it that these things are happening over here? Give them some amazing facts. Did you know that this and this? You are providing some statistics, giving them a story or personal anecdote, because they always attract attention. Using citation, meaning you're trying to be more relevant. And if you want to start on more philosophical note, of course you can go towards citation. Making a funny remark. Of course, I talked about humor, but humor has to be relevant, which is why it has to be chosen very carefully. Effective opening and its usual phrases. What I want to do this morning is to talk about this, this, and this. My talk will take about 30 minutes, in which I will be covering these points. During my presentation, I am going to be focusing on this. I'll be giving out copies of my transparencies. If you have any questions you would like to make, please don't hesitate to stop me. Well, this depends on you. If you want questions to be coming within the presentation, most welcome. Otherwise, people recommend questions to be coming at the end. It's how you are comfortable. Signposting is also very important. It's basically the concept in which you guide your audience how you will be moving. It's like a road map, it's like a map reaching to the treasure, which is like the ultimate goal of the whole presentation. So you guide. I will start with this, then I will move towards this. After that, I'll be talking about this, and finally I'll be concluding with this. So this is signposting. You are moving from this direction to this direction to this direction, and then finally towards this goal, which is there at the end. So This is signposting. You're guiding your audience how to move from step 1, 2, 3, 4. How to end your talk. Just the way starting is ending. Middle, of course, or the body is all about supporting all the points which are coming. You have the supporting details just the way you have in writing. You have to develop the interest, you have to provide all the details, you have to come up with statistics. So everything is there within the detail. But the things which are remembered in your presentation is your starting, how you caught the attention, and the ending, how you maintained that attention. And you, if I show you the point, tell the people what you have told them once again so that they may remember it. This is the point. So you basically summarize facts, you give recommendation, you give proposals, and with that you thank the audience and then invite questions. So that is how you have this sequence in which you summarize, recommend, propose, and then thank and invite question. So remember this sequence, which is going to help you in almost every presentation which you make to make it effective. This is also like part of your verbal communication strategy. And some of the usual expressions, useful phrases are, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Let me just run over the key points again. To sum up briefly, to conclude, as we have seen, so my recommendation is, I would welcome any suggestion. Thanking the audience and inviting covers, thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, now you are taking them towards the question session. Now I'll be happy to answer if you have any questions. Are there any questions you would like to ask? So it varies from how you are comfortable or how you want to take them towards this thanking and inviting question, but that is something to be done at the end and should be there. One point to remember. Now this takes us to some parts which are generally ignored but are important. Look into it by this social anthropologist Edward T. Hall. In a normal conversation between two persons, 35% or even less of the social meaning is actually transmitted by words. Looks alarming, right? Because I was wondering, everything is like communicated through words, but 65% of it is actually conveyed through body. This is called body language that we like ignore, but is now something that you have to be consciously aware of, and we are going to focus on it at the end. If we talk about paraverbal communication, you know now verbal communication, what it is. Paraverbal communication is beyond this verbal communication. It's about how you say something, because verbal is about what are you saying, but paraverbal is how you are saying it. So it covers your tone, your pitch and pacing of your voice, meaning rise and fall without any monotony. Point here is you have to avoid this monotony, and for that you have to have this rise and fall to make it natural. If I show you the example, just focus on the way I stress on some point. He didn't say you were absent. 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 So each and every expression, if you just try to say it yourself, you realize that it could be interpreted in different way, although it's a single sentence. But the rise and fall and the stress, the intonation is bringing multiple meanings out of a single sentence. This is what you get of paraverbal communication and should be used with awareness accordingly. Once paraverbal is at a side, then you have to focus on that body language I was talking about. 65% non-verbal strategies. So although it is conscious and it also covers our unconscious behavior. Sometimes even I am doing this body movement about which I am not even aware of, and sometimes I deliberately move my hands consciously. So that means this is also part of the non-verbal strategies and should be used carefully by knowing what every gesture means. So what non-verbal strategies cover? Your dressing, your hairstyle, the shoes, right now not visible to you. In my case, the things are a bit limited, but still I try to make it presentable. The eye contact, in my case, I have to look at a specified area. In your case, you have to maintain the eye contact with your audience. Avoiding continuously looking downward, because that is going to indicate that you are trying to create things on your own and you're trying to keep things secret. Whenever you're talking in this way, you're thinking, and when you are looking at the other person, that means you have everything in mind, you're telling them the truth. That is the difference, and you have to show it to the audience by looking into their eyes. Facial expression, of course, you can express many things just the way people do. Even if you look at the news reading, if you watch a news bulletin, whenever the anchors have to talk about something happy, all of a sudden there is a smile which comes on their face. And whenever they have to talk about some recent killings, some sad events, their face also becomes sad. It's a strategy which is taught to them, they learn, they apply. And that is also something which you need to apply in case of your presentation. Happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, everything can be reflected by your facial expression. In journal presentation, of course, you don't have to frown with a sad face, you know that emoticon with a sad face. Rather, you have to smile. Keep a smiling, friendly face in front of the audience. Proximity and space is also very important. It's like the distance which is there between you and your audience. To lessen it, to reduce it, to keep it equally divided, if there is space, it's better to walk around for a while as well, because this walking will make you closer to some people at one time, then making you closer to other people at the other corner at the other time. So it's going to equally divide the attention, your attention and their attention, with this strategy of walking around. Avoid slouching posture and stand straight. So basically, slouching posture is in which your shoulders are like forward, you have a hunched back, you are reflecting this laziness. When you are drowsy and indolent, you are sleepy. So this is the posture which happens. Is medically not recommended because it's going to affect your backbone. The recommended is staying tall and erect, standing straight. This posture is going to reflect this confidence as well, and it will show that you are totally into the points which you are presenting. So keep things straight, and then you have to avoid this sighing repetitively. The thing is, no repetition of these sighing. If it happens naturally, it's okay. But is sighing? This is basically sighing when you breathe out. And this breathing, if it's done again and again, is going to show to your audience that you are getting fed up with what you are doing. You're getting tired. You're not involved in the presentation. They'll also lose their focus. Therefore, you have to avoid it. In journal, speak softly and calmly. And you have to pause wherever it is pertinent and where it is relevant. It could be a question which you have raised, and then you pause for the audience to think. Otherwise, in journal, it's okay to just go with the flow. No finger pointing. This is also something which is to be avoided because it looks negative. I pointing finger at you again and again at each and every individual which is there in the audience doesn't look nice. The journal way of talking to the audience is, if you have to, it's a general strategy. Try to talk to the audience in this way if you have to. Rather than pointing, keep your palm outward, and then if you have to talk about some point, just the way even I do it. So the point here is, you want to explain something, we all should be there and we should be doing this. You better try to do this in this way, rather you better try to do such a thing. So try to avoid this finger pointing and use your hand in a soft way that you want to deliver something to your audience. Then if someone is talking to you, raising some question, you have to do this active nodding so that the other person realize that you are listening and carefully listening to what they have to offer. Active nodding. And read the body language of the audience as well, because that is going to reflect a lot as well. Over here I want you to look to this some of the body movement and what do they refer to. These are the interpretation. If you are brisk and doing erect walk, you are brisk and doing this erect walk, walking straight, that means you are very confident. Then you are standing with hands on your hips, just the way you do this, that means that you are a bit aggressive. You are sitting with legs crossed. If your legs are crossed in this way, sometimes we are doing, that means you are a bit bored. foot kicking and slightly, that is also part of it. Then you are sitting with your legs apart. That means if your legs are like in this way, you're trying to relax. Then arms crossed on your chest. This is the position, and that means that you are trying to be defensive, trying to disagree with the other person. In general, I'm not saying it's always the case, but the general convention, this is what they convey. Walking with hand in pocket, shoulders hunched, just the way as I told you, that means you're a bit sad, disappointed with something. These are the general ways. So if you find some of the symptoms in case of your audience, try to deal with it and try to avoid such expressions, especially the ones which are conveying the bad impression. Some other tips, once again, as I told you, it all began with anxiety and fear. How to overcome nervousness. Something natural, of course. You can have sweaty palms, accelerated heart rate, memory loss, and even difficulty in breathing. But the thing to remember here is these P's. Prior proper preparation prevents poor performance. So in order to prevent this poor performance, what you need is prior proper preparation. Because you can either prepare for the victory or prepare for failure. So I'll always pick this one, preparing for victory. Because if I don't, otherwise I'll be preparing automatically for a failure. So how you can overcome your nervousness? Of course, you need to gain experience, practice, of course. Try to do this practice of controlling your emotions. Eye contact should be there with the audience. Trying to know the room in which you're going to present, its sitting arrangement, the podium, and the microphone. This is also very important. Sometimes we get confused when we hear the echo of our voice coming from the microphone in the room. So first do this practice. How am I going to sound? So if you make some voice testing 1, 2, 3, you will realize how you are being audible. Know the audience, of course, by interacting with them. Know your material. You will be well aware of it if you have made it yourself. So be well aware of it. And then, of course, relax at the very beginning. Do this inhaling and exhaling. Don't do it during the presentation, sighing again and again. Point here is, do it at the beginning. Be relaxed. And this is also something that I got from my elders as well. You need to imagine. You need to visualize yourself speaking and getting all the feedback, big round of applause coming from the audience that you did great. So the point here is, if you think you can win, you will win. So this thinking and this visualization that you are successful, you have done it, will help you to do it in the real world as well. Because earlier you were just imagining things, but this imagination of success would lead you in the real life towards success as well. So imagine to be successful, you will be successful. Realize people want you to succeed just the way I pointed you. So no need to point that you are nervous. This is something not to be mentioned before your audience. They just want you to be confident and express everything naturally, rather than saying I'm hurt and I'm getting shy, I don't know what to say, I'm trembling, I'm shaking. No need to tell these things. They are here to encourage you and they want you to succeed. Focus on the message. Turn this adrenaline, that hormone which is hormone of fight or flight, the energy, into a positive energy. This positive energy will make you confident and successful in your presentation. So forgive yourself for minor mistakes, because these are common. Even I am making, at times I make, sometimes I stop, sometimes I stumble, fumble. It's natural, so accept it. And after this acceptance, forgive yourself and continue with the presentation, because I know at the end of the day, you'll be successful following all the points. So coming towards the end, keep this feedback within your mind. It's going to be very much helpful for you. Feedback of a bad presentation. So speaker was nervous, this is a bad point. Speaker was disorganized, not disciplined, meaning speaker never looked at me, eye contact. Speaker had a bad accent, practice. Speaker did not sound enthusiastic. Involve yourself in the presentation. Monotonous, have this rise and fall. Finger pointing, of course you have to avoid it. Rise and fall. Visuals were bad. Of course you have to apply, first check the screen whether the colors are okay. I was irritated by his clothing, so dress properly. Speaker was speaking too softly. Of course, Too soft is also, excess of everything is bad. Keep it moderate, not too soft, not too hard. Keep it moderate. Speech was confusing. I didn't know what he was trying to tell me. Speak clear. If you are clear, the audience will be clear as well. And this brings me to all the references, of course, from where you can find all the details of all the points, the way they have been collected. And successfully, I'm very happy that I consider it as a very important topic, and I wanted it to be covered in the best possible way. Hopefully, I was able to do it. Your presentations would tell how successful I was and how successful you are and you are going to be.
Henry is back to learn more about presentation skills. Let's get started. Presentations may seem scary, but if you prepare well, you can overcome your anxiety and fear. Properly plan your presentation by setting a purpose, analyzing the audience, checking space limitations, setting the date and time, and managing well. The use of visual aids can enhance the quality of your presentation by supporting your ideas, adding variety, improving audience comprehension, and helping illustrate complex ideas. Some effective visual aids include presentation tools like Microsoft PowerPoint, flip charts, pictures, graphs, charts, and handouts. Want to learn to catch an audience faster than fish? Well, that was 3 seconds. We'd better use visual aid. The most commonly used presentation tool is MS PowerPoint. It assists with predefined presentation formats, presents a variety of layouts and views, is helpful to work with charts and graphics, and makes it easy to incorporate clip arts, images, audio, and video. The following verbal communication strategies can come in handy. Think of using less words, be honest, get to the point, observe 7 C's of communication, adopt a you attitude, and keep your language gender neutral. During the introduction, try to achieve the following aims: gain attention, attract interest, create desire, and stimulate action. End your presentation with a good note. Summarize facts, give recommendations, give proposals, thank the audience, and invite questions. A few more things that matter in a presentation are paraverbal and nonverbal communications. Paraverbal communication is the way you speak. Make effective use of tone, pitch, and the pace of your voice. In nonverbal communication, take care of your attire and appearance, eye contact, and facial expressions. Avoid slouching and frowning, try to keep a smile on your face, and walk around instead of standing in one place. Now, Henry is all set to create, prepare, and present his solution.
So we talked about planning, visual aids, PPT, PowerPoint presentation as a visual aid, effective opening, middle, and closing, then talking about the paraverbal and nonverbal strategies, and then, of course, how to avoid nervousness. So this brings us to the end of lecture number 22, successfully completed. You can place a stamp of completion here. I'm happy. Hopefully you'll be happy as well at the end. I've learned a lot. Hopefully you will be too, because honestly speaking, I didn't apply this formula of B key to make things black here. I can make things black once again here for you, just to make you realize I'm going to do it from now on onwards whenever I want even you to focus on what I have to offer. But it's a very good strategy here. So with that, I would like to end our today's lecture. See you in the next one. Till that time, take good care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and Allah Hafiz.